intros are back. That's nice. Before we get fully into this video, I want to say thank you to everyone who has participated to make this video possible with the community polls and all of that. Mental health is something that I've never taken seriously or wanted to enlighten myself about because of how it's been approached in Nigeria. But through the research of this video, I've come to understand so much. Y'all made that possible. So yeah, thank you very much. So here are the Disney Pixar characters that we will be looking at. I won't be focusing much on the movies, but really extracting specific parts of each character that stand out and that I can relate to symptoms of mental health disorders. Now we begin with Elsa, the freeze queen. In the first part of Frozen, Elsa kept herself locked away and isolated herself from her family and others because she felt she will cause them harm. Later on, Elsa also left the castle because she believed she would never be good enough to be a queen, fearing rejection in this case. Elsa shows symptoms of avoidant personality disorder, APD. For us to fully understand this, we need to know about the 8 main classes of mental health disorder. We have anxiety disorder, mood disorder, psychotic disorder, eating disorder, impulse control and addiction disorder, personality disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. The cool thing is that these classes could change depending on the time you're researching it, because the thing about mental health topics or medical topics in general is that they change over time and people keep on researching them. But for now, or for the sake of this video, we're going to focus on 8 main classes of mental health disorders. Now, the one we're focusing on for Elsa is a personality disorder, which is avoidant personality disorder. People with APD display patterns of extreme shyness, aversion to social interaction, which stems from the feeling of inadequacy or fear for rejection. Such persons who have APD sometimes feel inferior to other people in social situations, and this fear actually leads them to exhibit high levels of introversion or kind of like reservation towards others. Elsa, at least in part 1, shows symptoms of APD. Note that people who suffer from APD might also show symptoms of depression, which is a mood disorder. So with Elsa, we have dabbled into one of the types of mental health disorder, which is personality disorder. Now on to the next. And who shall that next person be? Let's go for 22. Let's go for 22. 22 is what I call a quirky, funny little blob. 22 shows a very cynical attitude to the concept of life, where she doesn't care about living because she's scared she won't have a good life. This was as a result of her constantly screwing up. 22 over the millennia gives up on finding her purpose completely, and she tries to push those away who wants to help her find her spark. 22 shows symptoms of PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, though in a very light or mild way. Please do note that this is not how a normal psychotherapy diagnosis might go. This is just me relating specific behavior or symptoms to mental health disorders. PTSD is mainly seen with people who have gone through a traumatic event, be it sexual assault, verbal assault, or even a death of a loved one. This is not to say everyone who goes through these events have PTSD. No, but when it becomes a disorder or when it becomes PTSD is when these events bring up frightening and long-lasting thoughts that affect the emotional and physical functionality of that person. With 22, she tries to push away everyone who makes her face the concept of living, and she completely gives up on it because she's afraid of the future. Another thing 22 does indicate is how PTSD can trigger depression. Now, with 22, we've understood our second class of the 8 classes of mental health disorder, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. On to the third character, and let us go for Dory. I loved this character while growing up, but I knew she was very, very special, even as a child when I was watching her. Dory is the sweetest little fish in the sea. She is optimistic, she's kind, but one thing stands out for this video: she is very, very forgetful, inattentive, and hyperactive. Now then, this should need no introductions. These are very clear indications or symptoms of ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The symptoms of ADHD are normally seen at a very young age. Such persons might have trouble holding attention to a task, often interrupt others, and is more likely to forget peculiar information routinely or consistently. If you've seen Finding Nemo or Finding Dory, you know Dory shows these symptoms at a high degree. I feel the writers might have even written it into her characterization. By the way, ADHD is not a personality disorder, to which most people think it is, but it isn't. It is a neurodevelopmental disorder, which sometimes, depending on where you're getting your information from, is not a class or type of mental disorder. But for the sake of Dory, it has been added to our types of mental disorders. If you're a psychotherapist or a psychologist, please feel free to correct me in the comment section below. By the way, we are in the wonderful part of the video where I tell you to subscribe and like. Thank you very much if you choose to do so. Now, who will our next character be? Let's get into the princess world and let's go for Snow White. I'm sure a lot of people might be surprised by why Snow White is here. Snow White exhibits symptoms of a personality disorder. Snow White is a lovely soul, right? But for the sake of this video, I needed to look past the element of nostalgia and focus on both the bad and the ugly. Snow White loves to be the center of attention. She loves to be the one that people are talking about, and she acts like everything happens for her. A clear indication is how she took over the dwarf's house, not minding that they weren't at home, and she cleaned the place and slept off like she was the landlord of the place, with no sense of consequence at all. Snow White shows symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder. The thing is about this movie is that because the evil queen shows way more textbook indications of NAPD, most people fail to see that Snow White actually shows some symptoms of NAPD. People with NAPD have an inflated sense of their own importance. This should not be mistaken with confidence, by the way. These people seek out attention wherever they go and try to make people admire them. Most people with this disorder may show the lack of ability to understand or care about other people's feelings, which is not seen in the case of Snow White, by the way, but she does exhibit some symptoms of NAPD. So with Snow White, we have understood our second personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. Now then, let's go to our fifth character, which will be Marlin. Marlin is a very unique character. He's a loving father who has gone through a lot for an animated character. His wife died while trying to protect her eggs, and because of that, Marlin felt like he needed to be overprotective about his son who survived that incident, and he did not want to be separated from him. He was so afraid of losing Nemo that he never let Nemo leave his side, but when he finally let Nemo go, Nemo gets captured by divers. Marlin shows symptoms of separation anxiety induced by, if you've been following, you pretty much understand where I'm going with this. Separation anxiety induced by PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Marlin's former events of his wife passing totally affected his approach to his son, which makes him to panic around anything his son does. Separation anxiety is a specific spectrum of anxiety disorder. People with anxiety disorder respond constantly to peculiar situations with fear and dread. There can also be physical signs of anxiety like shaky hands, sweating, increased heart rate, and probably tearing up. Now, this is not to say anyone who is anxious has anxiety disorder. No, it is a disorder, or it becomes anxiety disorder when it interferes with one's ability to function, and such a person can't control these responses in these different situations. All the symptoms Marlin shows. Specifically, in separation anxiety disorder, such a person has an intense fear of being separated from a loved one or caregiver, so much so that it affects his or her ability to function. So, with Marlin, we have dabbled in the class of anxiety disorder. Now then, on to the sixth character. It will be Maleficent. Maleficent. I probably don't know how to say Maleficent. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but we're going to go for Maleficent. Maleficent shows symptoms of a very well-known mood disorder. Maleficent often acts out of impulse and has the most extreme emotional reactions to what she shouldn't. Like how she feels hurt for not being invited to Aurora's christening, but instead of handling it differently, she cursed Aurora and everyone in the kingdom. I know it's Disney and I know back then villains had to be evil, but for the sake of this video, we're going to look past that and take out that such extreme change of behavior and switch of emotions are clearly symptoms of bipolar disorders. Persons with bipolar disorders have episodes of mood swings ranging from emotional highs to depressive lows, and these emotional highs are also known as mania or hypomania, and these depressive lows are known as depression. In cases of hypomania or mania, such persons feel euphoric and full of energy, but such a mood can shift to a feeling of sadness and hopelessness. These mood swings may affect one's sense of judgment, like in Maleficent's case. It may also affect one's behavior and ability to think clearly. On to our seventh character, which will be Pocahontas, the only Native American Disney princess, if I'm not mistaken. Pocahontas is a kind-hearted but also brave character, one who helped her people make peace with the settlers. But something stands out most about Pocahontas, and that is she freaking talks to animals and inanimate objects when no one else can. Pocahontas seems to have shamanic powers, and she can speak in unknown languages with prophetic dreams. Now then, when Pocahontas was betrothed to one of her father's warriors, surprisingly the intensity of these hallucinations intensified, and she was able to see her Grandma Willow. These are clear symptoms of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, which is a psychotic disorder, is a very, very serious mental health disorder, in the sense that it's not one to go away. It's one that needs to be taken care of at a very, very early stage. Persons with schizophrenia have severe hallucinations, delusions, and extremely disordered thinking and behavior, which impairs their daily functionality. A very unique symptom to each persons with schizophrenia show is disorganized speech, which comes from disorganized thinking. Such a person might give answers to questions that are partially or completely unrelated to the topic that is being talked about. For this particular symptom, Pocahontas actually does not show, but she does show certain symptoms of schizophrenia. Now then, on to the last two characters, and we are going to start with Ariel. Ariel is a very, very curious mermaid, and she shows symptoms of a very infamous mental health disorder. Ariel loves to hoard things. She collects different things and becomes emotionally attached to them, to the extent that when these things become destroyed, it causes Ariel a much deal of distress. These are symptoms of disposophobia or hoarding disorder. Ariel has a huge deal of absolutely useless things like toenail clippings and hairball, which in my opinion she does not need. Now, people with hoarding disorders are very different from collectors. Collectors want to visually display such stuff that they collect, but hoarders keep them hidden because of either shame or attachment that they have to these random objects. People with hoarding disorder normally ditch responsibilities in search of more things to collect, all in the expense of daily obligations. Now, with hoarding disorder, I don't really know which class it belongs to, being that some psychologists don't approach it as a mental illness, while some do. So we're just going to leave this one aside for now. If y'all can classify disposophobia, please do help me in the comment section. On to our final character, which is Rapunzel. Shockingly, I'm not going to say anything about Rapunzel. I'll give it to y'all to answer. It's a very well-known mental disorder that is normally used out of place, but I will give you a hint. She does share these symptoms with a princess known as Belle from Beauty and the Beast. If nobody answers it, no problem. I will answer it later on in the comment section. Okay, thank you for watching. If you've reached this part of the video, you are an absolute legend. Finally, let me just run through the mental health community posts that I posted throughout the past weeks. Now, the first poll, I was trying to understand the consensus about mental health in our different societies. And clearly, as we can see, it's pretty much not a very open topic. That's why I find it important that us as a younger generation needs to make a common practice to enlighten ourselves about it. Through this, we can help people come out and talk about their problems and not hide it and become very open about it. Next poll, I wanted to test people's knowledge on some mental health terms, and you all knew all of them. That's good. By the way, bulimia is an eating disorder that is marked with food binging followed by weight gain. The next one was also me testing our understanding of some mental health notions, and majority knew it. So that shows that we are very enlightened in our own way about mental health related topics or mental related topics. Okay then, I just wanted to say I did not do this video to get views. This was a video that I've been trying to put out because I wanted to understand myself and I wanted to test myself. So if you find yourself exhibiting some of these symptoms in this video, don't be scared, don't be perplexed. God has you, and you need to talk to people, you need to talk to friends. In the case where you need professional help, you need to seek that out. At the end of the day, we are humans and our body is unique. So don't be ashamed or feel inferior if you go through a depressive phase or if you start seeing some things that you are not used to. The thing is, you need to work around it, learn the problem, and deal with it accordingly. Professional help like a therapist or a psychologist really helps. So thank you for watching. Subscribe and like if you haven't. God loves you and I love you too. See you in the next video, and bye bye.